Okay, my dear. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm broadcasting. I've got my mic on, honey. Can you hear me, my dear? He says, okay. Okay, that's great.
Did you change any of the controls for volume or anything?
Uh-huh. No, I mean, I did not, honey.
Okay. Is it in the same place? Because it feels a little soft.
Okay.
Softer than usual.
I'll just move it up a little bit.
Yeah, put it up by your throat or something.
There?
The closest to you, the better. And I know we're going on the air any second, so.
I think
great.
I think that's good. Thank you, honey.
I love you.
We can hear. They say we can hear. Very good. Excellent. So I'm online, and I've got people listening. I'm happy. It's 8 o'clock. And it's time to welcome you to the Red Room. Hi, I'm Heather Carlisle, and I'm delighted for you to join me this evening. And as usual, I'm talking about relationship tips. And anything that you want to ask me, I'm fine with it. We'll see if I can help you out. Usually I've got something. So, got a question? Type away, and I'll be happy to hear your thought. So what I thought that I would talk about tonight is one of the two things that are most necessary for a great relationship or a great marriage. So the very first thing is, number one, we need to be best friends, a deep friendship. And number two, we need to be romantic. We need to have that chemistry feeling. So I'm going to talk tonight about deep friendship from the viewpoint of one of my very favorite authors and researchers. It's a little more than that, but this is what I called from her book. Her name is Pepper Schwartz, and she started me thinking in her direction in her first book, Peer Marriage, meaning marriage between two equals. And I've been talking this week to several couples in my private practice about how years ago when I was about 23, I started to think consciously, what is it to be a real man? What is it to be a real woman? Which is masculine, feminine, Apollonian, Dionysian, patriarchy, matriarchy, those kinds of, those two huge concepts. Gender difference. I'm still interested in it. I'm still pursuing it. I'm still wondering, what is it to be a great woman? Because, of course, I want to be the best woman that I can be. Not just a person, but a woman. And I know one of the things that started me feeling like I had a good foundation about that was Dr. Riane Eisler's work, E-I-S-L-E-R. And her book, The Chalice and the Blade. And I've got a question. She says, he or she says, do you believe one gender has higher authority over the other, like a husband? No, I most definitely do not. So, for example, now men and women are very different, and I really want to know how men and women are different, because as a woman, I want to love my husband in the way he needs to be loved. I want to love him as a man. And of course, then I want to be a real woman and give him the clues he needs in order to feel as if I am loved as a woman. So no, I don't think one gender has higher authority over the other. And what you're talking about is directly related to knowing about the patriarchal societies and the matriarchal societies. And we've done lots of studies on those where in a patriarchy, the male is in charge and above the woman. And in a matriarchal society, the female is in charge and above the man. And I disagree with both of those. I think that what we want is what Dr. Pepper Schwartz says, a peer marriage. where both people are valued equally. Now, not that we're all the same, we're both human beings, but a man and a woman in a relationship are very different. And I believe all human beings need to be valued equally. Now, not saying that some of the way they behave is going to be something that I will admire in one person as much as I admire in another person, but that all human beings, I think, and then this is how I think about it, have equal value. Their behavior is going to determine how close I want them in my life or how I'm going to conduct myself with them. So, peer marriage, P-E-E-R, I'll write that down for you, means equals. When we talk about peers, we usually talk about the other people in our high school class or our college class. Peer Marriage by Pepper Schwartz. She's written other books since then, and I really respect her. I like the way she writes, I like the way she researches, and she provides information that I think is important, especially as a marriage counselor. So she talked about the interactional elements of deep friendship. So this is me writing a little bit, and this is part of my designer marriage book. Our legal system, our educational institutions, and many of our workplaces have embraced the ideal of equity between men and women. Now, you know that we've embraced that in this country. Not saying that we all are living according to that. That may take a few generations or a lot of generations. Now our couples are seeking peer marriages. The two basic requirements for mutual value in marriage are deep friendship and romance. Deep friendship is loyal, and intimate. The two know each other very well. They keep lines of communication open, and they are fair and reciprocal with one another. Reciprocal meaning I'm generous with you and you're generous with me. It's fair, it's even. Not that what we give, what a woman gives to a man and what a man gives to a woman is the same thing, but it's of equal value to the two. We want to make sure that couples have a sense of mutual respect, mutual value. It's not always the case. And some of our beliefs, some of our cultures have differing views of men and women, and I disagree with those who don't value a man and a woman equally. So let's see here. We've got 7 components of deep friendship, and I'm going to talk through each one of those 7 components. So, understanding with tolerance and respect, shared worlds, the ability to negotiate differences, the ability to be both private and separate, reconceptualizing affection so that it's between a man and a woman in a marriage, not just with friends or family members. Collegiality means colleagues in the same way, and a sense of shared mutual excellence, and togetherness. So let's look at these 7 elements of deep friendship. And pop in anytime you like with a question. I love to get questions from my viewers. Thank you so much. And if you have, whoever it is that typed that question, do you believe one gender has higher authority over the other, like a husband? And you want to ask me more specifics about that, just send the question my way. Thanks. Okay, understanding with tolerance and respect. Understand your spouse's differences and preferences. Differences are manageable because of mutual respect. Share your vulnerabilities without fear that it will be revealed or used against you. So respect that way is whatever it is that you share, the other person is going to keep respectfully and kindly giving it value. And they won't use something against you. And if you have that mutual respect, then I can respect my husband's view very easily, even though he has a different viewpoint than I do, because he understands and respects my viewpoint, even though it's different from his. Sometimes that needs to be resolved. Sometimes it's just a held difference where it can be kind of interesting. It can be complementing or completing. Or it can be just that that's where he goes for some fun and this is where I go for some fun. Those differences, when we have tolerance and respect, means tolerating a difference. Tolerating doesn't mean, all right, I'll tolerate this. No, tolerance means I'm strong enough and open-minded enough to tolerate whatever it is that's in a difference from your opinion, your beliefs, the way you behave, without confronting you or needing you to change. I can do that. And of course, the ideal is to be, what I think of as easy in the saddle with it. Understanding means we need good communication and we learn each other's preferences. And I find that that's an interesting thing, unless you kind of get grouchy about it, to learn your man, learn your woman. And I was talking with a couple in my office today where they're ready for the next stage of their marriage. And relationships, intimate relationships, have a kind of cycle in my experience. And that means that the 7-year itch is not a myth. As a matter of fact, I'm planning with one of my associates barefoot cruises for couples that's called Scratching the 7-Year Itch, because we do need something to rejuvenate us in about 7-year cycles, which is pretty interesting. Okay, you say you want to be the best woman you can be. Yes, I do. What do you mean by that? What's your definition of a real woman? Thanks for asking. And I have some ideas, and I know that I haven't figured it all out. I know there's a lot more to go. And I think because in our generation, in our time, we're starting to really ask that question with informed, being informed by psychology like no generation in the past. Heather, you said something about private versus separate, I think. What did you mean by that? Yes, I'll get to that one in a minute, because that's number 4 on the list. So I'm just finishing number 1. We'll get down to number 2, and that's about being private and separate. So definition of a real woman. Partly that's troubled in our times because we really do largely live in a patriarchal world where in certain ways we've got this idea that if someone earns more money than the other person, they're more valuable. And usually our men are what I call our money funnels. That they're the ones that are out there working and getting the paycheck. Of course, that's changed a lot now, where both people are. And it is hard. It is hard when we earn different amounts because we want to feel like we're equals. And so sometimes the woman is earning more than the man. And that's something that they need to find their way so that they really feel equally valued with each other, regardless of what the world says. So what's a real woman? I liked it when Jack married me and he said that he really values the feminine touch. So let me share with you a couple of things from a researcher that I really respect. Her name is Dr. Barbara Kerr, from her book on smart girls, gifted women. She's the first researcher to really study just women. And a couple of her conclusions were that wherever a woman finds herself, even if it's a tough place, she'll take whatever she has, and if it's lemons, she'll make lemonade out of it. One of her other conclusions is that wherever a woman finds herself, she will find some way to make it prettier, to make it more beautiful, to plant a flower, to create an arrangement or a color or a comfort in her environment. So I think that that's one of the things that marks femininity is we're closer to creating beauty around us. Not saying that our men aren't great architects and creators of great beauty. The feminine beauty is softer, more personal, I think. Also, I think if we look basically at male and female and what we need in order to have happy marriages, happy families, kids that are empowered and creative and fun-loving and healthy, our children really need a full-time parent. And until they're about 10 years old, it really ought to be the mom, except for they don't need her until after they go into school. But I think part of helping our world be healthy and successful, we need to have a good life at home, and we need to create whatever is good in our community. So, bottom line, our men are the providers and protectors. The guys that I know tell me that I'm on track when I say right down in the core of a man is the drive and the wish, the desire, the real desire. This is not, I don't think this is an emotion and it's not a thought. It's almost like it's in their DNA, that they want to provide for their loved ones and they want to protect their loved ones. Whether that's going to work and earning a paycheck and paying the mortgage on a house, or it's going out hunting to get a deer for food, or it's going to war to make sure that their home, family, and country are safe, that this is a great, powerful desire in our men to provide and protect. And then, what's that great and powerful urge in a woman? And I think it is to create the home that the man comes home to and provides and protects, and to create what's inside the buildings, the relationships, the heartfelt things, the nourishing things, whether it's food or laughter, conversation, hugs, sociability, interaction with neighbors, friendliness, community. So women are more naturally, in terms of our brain structure, skilled with taking care of the kids, people, interactions, relationships, creating the nurturing environment in the home and inside the buildings, the culture. So when I say that our men provide and protect, it can be everything from roads and great architecture to a cozy cabin, and the woman creates and provides and preserves the culture. So that's how I think of it. When you say want to be the best woman you can be, I want to know how to create and preserve the highest level of culture I can influence. And that means who I am in terms of being a kind and wise and caring woman, how I am creative, how I am an artist, how I am with my friends and with my family members, how I am in terms of creating organizations, associations, the school system, the culture in our community. Does that answer your question? If there's some stuff there that isn't quite clear, I'd love for you to let me know. So then let's go on to the next part of deep friendship. So the second aspect, after understanding with tolerance and respect, is shared worlds. When we have a great relationship, great intimate relationship or marriage, we need to have shared worlds. Some couples don't share much, and maybe that's just their home. But it's more fun, you get more connection, you contribute to the world more when you share some world or other with each other. Interest in each other's day to share experiences, share work or business, share excitement and pleasure such as hobbies. And you know, some couples work together and they're together 24/7. And now some couples work in their homes together so that they are always in their home. So they definitely have a shared world, and some couples do really well with that. They know when to take breaks. They know how to have their own activities outside of their work life and home life in their own home. So, and this again speaks to the person's question about being private and separate. Private and separate. You know, that's almost like the same thing. At any rate, we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. So shared worlds, it could, and oftentimes if you have kids, you've got a shared world because of your children. Young couples, I find very often when they go into their marriage, he will have come in with his group of buddies. Maybe they go hunting together. Maybe they play pool. Maybe they're in the National Guard. Maybe they just go and hang out together by the racetrack, whatever it is they do together. And then the wife will have girlfriends, and they'll have things that they do together. Sometimes they like to go out for happy hour. Sometimes they're on a sports team. Sometimes they're involved with one of the, like the junior league or something like that. And that's cool. That's fine. However, if they don't have equal time with each other and in activities with each other, then there's something missing because they aren't a unit yet. They're kind of like a young man and a young woman living together rather than a husband and a wife creating a marriage together. So you want to have, in deep friendship that's necessary for intimacy, shared worlds. The third one is the ability to negotiate differences. Let's see, how much of time alone should a couple have together daily? Like you're saying, alone together, and I'm assuming that may be if you both have jobs, if you have children. Some couples don't get much. And daily, some couples get, one of them has to go to sleep earlier than the other one, and so they kind of hardly cross paths other than making food for the children and getting the children to bed. Sometimes they have a lot of time, and they just sit and watch TV, which is really not being together. It's kind of just sitting side by side facing the TV. So unless they have conversations about what they're watching on TV, it's still not really connecting. So how much time? I don't think there's a definitive answer to that question because every couple is different. Some of us really want to be together and want to have conversation. And some of us like that kind of easy quietness together. And each of us needs to know how to communicate what feels good. It may change over the course of your relationship and your family too. But it depends on what makes you feel as if you're connected with your best friend. Because what we want is our husband or our wife to be our best friend. And that usually means we need to share things, we need to talk. And if you don't have time to share and talk, then something kind of wilts inside. And if you don't get much time at home together, then sometimes it's a phone call. Sometimes couples have a little bit of time. They get up a little early and they sit and have coffee together and visit. Sometimes before they go to sleep, like pillow talk. Sometimes after they put the kids to bed and they sit with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine just in the quiet. Sometimes they don't until the weekend, where they'll have quiet time together on a Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon. So you need to find your stride with that and what feels good with you, and it may change from week to week. So to me, that's kind of like an art form, and it's improvisational. And if one of you is feeling like they don't get enough quality time, maybe that person's number one love language is quality time, which is the fifth point in this definition of deep friendship. So the ability to negotiate differences. What we want is that we have a commitment to always work it out, especially in an argument. That we don't pull rank on each other, we don't shut each other out, we don't get derisive, and we presume to have more than our fair share of time. We don't want to presume to have more than our fair share of time. So we want to be respectful and share equally. Not pulling rank means not trying to force the other person to your way of seeing things, or not forcing them to back down or be any less valuable. Shutting each other out, that's refusing to talk, it's shutting down, leaving, not being willing to connect, and good friends don't do that to each other. So we want to have the ability, even when we get grouchy or crabby, or we say the wrong thing, or we get angry and it hurt the other person's feelings, we want to be able to go back and apologize in the way that the other person needs, so that there can be forgiveness and we get it cleaned up. Okay, the ability to be private and separate. No pressure to be exactly alike. Collaboration requires privacy as well as public sharing. Take turns giving advice, thinking of things to do, being the strong or the faltering one. So the ability to be private and to be separate, which means if we're best friends, we definitely have the ability to get together, and the ability to share everything and be in those shared worlds. But if we require the other person to share everything, then that's too controlling and it's too tight, and it can be needy, it can be enmeshed, rather than two people in a relationship with each other that's mutually respectful. So we need to be able to be private, which means I need to be able to have my private time, my quiet time. I need to be able to go away and maybe go for a drive, go shopping, go to my dance class, go have lunch with a girlfriend. I need to be able to be separate in that way, or I need privacy in the sense that sometimes I want to be left alone in my office so that I can write. A lot of the time I want to be left alone in my office. Fortunately, so does Jack. And, you know, when I'm getting dressed to go out for dinner with him, I don't want him in the closet. I don't want him around me. I want to get dressed privately, you know, and keep a little bit of that feminine mystique. And that sense of respect where you give each other the space to be private in private ways. And each couple has its own way of feeling out what they like for being private and together. And to be the ability to be separate, like for example, if you go to a dinner party and there's conversation and one of the people goes off to have conversation with those people and the other person goes off to have conversation with those people, where when you're going home in the car, you're interested in sharing about it, not having one person say, well, I didn't like who you were talking. You left me and I didn't feel comfortable. And that's low emotional intelligence or neediness or trying to control another person. And also to be separate in the sense that, you know, if the husband really loves to play soccer and the wife is on a softball team, that they like that, they handle that, and they can each do what it is that suits them best. And not have that take away from the marriage. Now, sometimes something like that can take over and it can take too much time, and then you need to pull back from it. So that's the part, the ability to be private and separate, as well as bonded and together and intimate. Then reconceptualizing affection. So reconceptualizing affection means thinking about how to be affectionate in terms of, if I'm a woman, what does my husband need as affection from his intimate partner, from his best friend, from his wife? And of course the other way around. And I'm sure most of you have heard of the 5 love languages. One of the 5 love languages I spoke of earlier was spending quality time together. Then touch or affectionate touch, sexual touch, words, loving words, words of affection, saying sincerely kind, appreciative, and admiring words to each other, giving gifts, small gifts, romantic gifts, large gifts, cute gifts, whatever it is, different kinds of gifts, and acts of service, which means doing nice things for each other. And this is a very powerful thing to do. Just about every couple I've worked with, they had a misconception around their partner's love language. So what I have people do is go through this little chart of grading the 5 love languages in terms of their number 1, their number 2, etc. And then seeing if they can guess correctly how their partner is going to rank them. And I've only ever once had a couple where they both got each other exactly correctly. So we usually have misconceptions about love languages. And so that means reconceptualizing affection for what our partner needs and wants and responds to. So if your number 1 love language is acts of service, so if I'm a woman and if I pretend that my love language is acts of service for a moment, then I would think about doing his laundry. I would think about washing his car, taking his clothes to the cleaners, doing something with his space in the house. Whatever it is that he needs, I'm going to do that for him as an act of service, cooking his favorite meals. Say that acts of service is number 5 on his list, and what he really wants is words. And so if a wife gives acts of service, usually her number 1 love language is acts of service because she's giving what she thinks is the best thing. And all he really wants is to hear her voice say, I love you, and other affectionate things. And imagine if she was born in a family where they didn't talk, or sometimes they use words hurtfully, or maybe they said things but then they didn't do what they say they were going to do. And so then she learned to not trust words. So she doesn't value words. And if his number 1 love language is words, then she has something new to learn. She's going to have to reconceptualize affection because that's what makes him feel loved. And of course, vice versa. So what we want in this reconceptualizing of affection is to know what our partner really wants and what makes them feel loved, and then to learn that skill in terms of how we express our love to them. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to type me one. I'm happy to answer it, and it's kind of fun to get them, actually. Okay. That was number 5. We have 7 elements of deep friendship. Number 6 is collegiality, like colleagues. And this means mutual sense of excellence. Each good person makes the other person look better and feel stronger. Division of labor is on ability and desire rather than authority and tradition. And collegiality which means you and I are colleagues, we're in this together and we're equals. This requires honesty. Okay, let's see here. Do you think a woman's upbringing affects how she will be as a wife? Oh, well, yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that I kind of love, when I was growing up, my mom really did the best she could to be a good wife, and she wanted to teach me, of course, how to do that. And I'll never forget, it was really lovely when she taught me the lesson of how to properly iron a man's shirt. And it was a special feminine thing that we did together that day. She really wanted to show me this is how it's done and this is the right way. And so I have that kind of sense of, if my husband's shirts aren't ironed properly, or his suit isn't pressed, or his shoes are run down, he doesn't have a very good wife. Because that's how I was brought up, that I tend to my husband in those ways. And so as a result, I love if his shirt needs touching up, because now, of course, they get sent to the cleaners. But if it needs touching up, I know how to do it the right way. My man gets it the right way. So ironing a shirt for Jack, for me, is special. Now, for another woman, depending on how she was raised, he needed to iron his own shirts. I mean, that's up to him. So that's how we're raised, and that's just a tiny little example. So she says, so I am doomed as a wife if I had bad parents? No, of course not. It affects us. Now, think about it this way. I grew up on a farm, and I really didn't like farm life. And, I know about all gardening and pulling the vegetables from the garden and cooking a fresh meal and doing the dishes by hand, heating the water on the stove because there was no running water, all of those things. Am I going to be devoted to being a farmer's wife for the rest of my life? Not ever know how. I got out of that farming community as fast as I could, and here I am, happily in my favorite city now in the world, which is Dallas. So am I going to be like my mom? She was scared to death to do a dinner party, partly because her mom never taught her to cook. So she was just horrified at the idea of inviting guests over. If they came, we would figure it out and we'd have a good time. On the other hand, I am not like my mom. I am not like how I was raised. I love giving dinner parties, and I've schooled myself to give dinner parties. That's not anything that my mother taught me or that my upbringing taught me. That's something that I just wanted, and it's a part of who I am as a woman. So you're not doomed as a wife if you had bad parents. Actually, you sometimes, quote unquote, bad parents, which can be all different dimensions, sometimes it's kind of like a slingshot that slings us far away from ever being that way or wanting, being caught, doomed, as you say, into recreating those patterns. Sometimes it takes effort to separate ourselves and to develop new patterns. But no, I believe, at least in the United States of America in these times, we have free choice. North America, most of South America, a lot of countries, we do have free choice as to how we're going to live as a man or a woman. And yes, our culture and our upbringing do affect us. And we have a choice as to whether we continue that or we do something differently. So, how do I break the cycle of being like my mom? My mom was always at my dad and belittled him in front of us growing up. Now, unfortunately, I find myself doing that. Oh, I am so sorry, dear. Thank you for the question. That's a tragic part, very tragic, because that's not respectful. It's not loving. And, there are always reasons why people behave as they do. And, if I were to think of an extreme reason, not in any way am I thinking that this is your family, but I'm just going to think of an extreme reason to make my point. Yelled. Just imagine that a mother was born in a family where her father was from the old school, authoritarian, really wasn't emotionally available, worked hard but came home and was aggressive and demanding and tired and grouchy and grumpy. Now, his wife probably wouldn't be treated, if he's emotionally shut down, then there's not a connection there and there's not a friendship there, and it feels bad when dad comes home. So if a daughter is born to that family, she's not going to trust men, and she's going to assume that men are insensitive. So then when she gets married, she's going to look for a man that she can trust, which means a softer man, an easygoing man who maybe isn't that aggressive or assertive or authoritarian. So she'll find a softer man, but then when she gets married to him, because he's maybe too soft, and she won't respect him. And if she hasn't figured out how to have an intimate relationship which is mutually respectful, where both people are heard, understood, and their needs are respected and fulfilled in whatever way they can manage, then there's this, if your mama behaved like that with your dad, then she's trying to control him, trying to change him, and she's not being successful, and then getting frustrated and angry. And there are always good reasons, or maybe not good reasons, but logical reasons why couples end up that way. And goodness knows, half of what I do is talking with couples and doing counseling with couples where they're fighting too much, arguing and yelling. So you're asking, and I love this question, and I love that you want this. How do I break the cycle of being like my mom? There are lots of elements to that. And if you don't want to find yourself yelling at someone, then there's something inside you that gets frustrated. And if you get frustrated, that means that there's a problem that's not being solved. And, frankly, we attract more bees with honey than with vinegar, which means we're probably going to get solutions by being kind and being intelligent than by being confrontive, pushy, angry, negative, complaining. So do you have a sense of what it is inside you? Because you got that from your mom, yeah, but it comes from somewhere inside you. Are you frustrated? Is it that you don't feel listened to? Is it that you don't feel validated or understood? Is it that you've lost your sex life and you're feeling so bad about that and you're blaming him? Or maybe he spends too much money, or he doesn't let you spend money, or what is it? There's usually something that is a conflict of some sort where you're getting frustrated if you get like that. If you can share it, and this is private, so nobody knows who you are. You can say that. I'm going to have some nice Starbucks here. Give me a clue, dear. Okay, the last one on the list is togetherness. Similar pleasures shared such as gardening, cooking, hiking, etc., but also with others, socially and with friends. How's the Starbucks? The Starbucks is perfect. Yeah, anger. Well, frustration, if you build frustration, it sooner or later becomes anger if it's not released. It is anger of not being friends. Ooh, not communicating. Anger of not being friends, of not communicating. And, you know, bottom line, the thing I do most with couples is teach them communication skills. Not communicating for 6 years. Oh, my dear, that's hard. That's really hard. So, resentment builds up. Yes, exactly. And when resentment builds up, you're kind of like a pressure cooker and you get frustrated. And then the last thing happens and you go bluff. And then you start yelling because you're so frustrated. And probably what's underneath the frustration, if you're saying that you can't communicate and not be friends, you're probably sad. And you're probably hurt and hopeless. And when you don't have hopefulness and you don't have a way to solve the problem, then you get in this stuck, hopeless, sad place, and then you start resenting because the sadness is there and you're not resolving the problem so that you can grieve and get the friendship that you want. So I'm just wondering, what would he tell? What would he tell you is the difficulty in your communication? Now, in the beginning of the Red Room, when I started teaching here, one of the things I did was focus repeatedly on all of the components of being a good listener, and then all of the components of expressing yourself in ways that are good communication skills. So partly communication is listening and speaking, and being able to really understand the other person and validate them. And that's bottom line in your friendship, what we need. Best friends share everything. What do you think about acting an emotion until it is a true emotion? Do you think that is real? Yeah, I do. Think about this. Have you ever seen people doing that laughing act or exercise where they just make themselves laugh and then they start laughing and then they look at each other and they're pointing each other and they're laughing and then they're really laughing because it's really funny and because they just started laughing to laugh, and as they move into it, then they're just tickled with themselves and it's real laughter. Same thing with anger. If you start yelling and you keep yelling, sooner or later you're going to connect with the things that you want to yell about. He will say, I get too emotional or yell back. Ooh, bingo, my dear. I've taught this lesson 3 times this week to different people. And here it is again. It's partly a gender difference. And one of the things I've learned, and men confirm this for me, is that men are more emotionally sensitive than women. And one of my students said, what did you just say? I don't believe that. That's not right. Yep, it is. And when men are more emotionally sensitive than women, that means that when we get upset, it affects them more deeply than we can say. And a man likes to communicate and is available to communicate when it's intelligent and not emotional. So if you really want to communicate with a guy, you don't want to do it when you're emotional. And I know sometimes that happens, but if your communication is troubled, you want to be very careful to not get emotional, and especially not get angry. And one of the things about communicating difficult things, if you start to get angry, what you do is you have a prearranged signal that there's a timeout where you stop. You leave the room, you go cook a meal, you read a book, you go for a drive, and you say, let's get back together again after dinner or tomorrow or on Saturday when I can be intelligent. Because when we communicate with each other, especially about something where there's a problem we need to solve, we're not going to solve problems until we can get intelligent. Emotions aren't smart. They're just passionate. And anger is not even passionate. Anger is just fight or flight. It's not intelligent. It's not heartfelt. It's just coercive. Do they compartmentalize? Is that how they handle situations? Exactly. You got it. Yes. Men have a greater ability than women to compartmentalize their feelings about certain things and to not go there. Most people have heard men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's kind of like the primer. Frankly, I recommend it to everybody. I don't know, there's another book that gets right to it as quickly and as with such a good sense of humor as John Gray does. And one of the things that you might want to look at in that book, it's quite interesting, are the different ways that you make points with a woman and that you make points with a man. Not go there until when? They feel safe? Absolutely. Safe and respected. Excuse me. Making points with a man is a whole different world, like John Gray says, different planet from making points with a woman. Now, with a woman, doing nice things for her, affectionate things for her, speaking in her love language, that's how you're going to make points with a woman. With a man, it's interesting. A man gives us points more for what we don't do than what we do. And it's usually around when we don't get emotionally negative. That's the hardest thing in the world for a man to handle from his wife, is when she gets emotionally negative. When she's crying, he wants to stop her crying. When she's scared, he wants to protect her and calm her down so she's not scared. When she's angry, he knows there's something wrong and he wants to fix it. And it's extremely uncomfortable for him. So, that's what they say, that men want to fix it. Yeah, they do. They want to provide and protect, and they don't want their woman to be unhappy. So when a woman gets angry or emotionally upset, a man is extremely uncomfortable. And if we can pull ourselves back and calm ourselves down, he gives us a lot of points. And he then feels safe, and he knows he can help solve the problem, because then when we're intelligent, when we're calm, that's when we can talk things through and actually get somewhere. What do you think about a woman always focusing on what the man has done for them, but not the other way around? So, for a woman focusing on what the man has done for them, but not a man focusing on what she's done for him? Could be. And there could be various reasons for that. One of the things that we just looked at was love languages. What if he's always doing her love language? He's always doing nice things for her, acts of service and everything. And that's her number one love language. And she's so thankful for him doing that. But what if his number one love language is touch and she doesn't touch him? Then he doesn't have anything to talk about. He doesn't have anything to thank her for if his number one love language is touch and she's not physically affectionate, or she's not really connected to him sexually. That may be one of the elements. Love it. Her not asking herself, what have I done to make him happy? Yeah, that is a great question. Well, could be, again, various things. And bottom line, that sounds pretty selfish. And it could be that her personality is that she's very connected with what she wants and what she needs. That can come sometime from a woman who is anxious, where she's always looking for what's safe and secure. I need to be safe and secure, and I need this from you. And so if she's looking for safety and security, and she looks to her husband for safety and security, then she's driven by fear of not having what she needs, rather than being driven by wanting to love somebody. And sometimes we're not even conscious that we do that. Or, for example, if a woman, she's the kind of personality that needs to feel loved and cared for and respected in the sense that he's nourishing her, giving her nice things, opening the door, whatever it is. If she's very needy, she's going to want him, and she's going to, if he looks at another woman, she's going to get jealous. And so she's always looking for what she needs because she's needy emotionally. So that's another scenario. Cool. Is happiness a choice? Can you decide to be happy, then make your life that way? Yes and no. In a certain degree, we can. You know, like I said earlier, where a woman is planted, I said earlier, I don't like farms. Now, if I ended up marrying a man and falling in love with a man who really wanted to have a farm, you know, I'm certainly not going to fall in love with him if he's on the farm because I won't be there. But he really has always wanted a farm. I will figure out a way to like the farm. So I'll do something with it to make lemonade out of lemons. I'll figure that out so that I can be happy there. Just like if I married a man who liked football, I'd figure out how to, I'd learn football and I'd figure out how to be happy watching football. But I am one of those women who does not want to live in the wilderness. Don't make me go camping. Don't make me go hiking. I'll go if you want me to. But if that's all I get year after year after year, I'm not going to be happy. There's something inside of me that's going to wilt. For so long, I'll be able to make that, I'll be happy with that. But after a while, if I don't get some of the other things that shore me up or give me life or make me happy, then I can't be happy when my values and my wants, my needs, my style is being deprived or ignored or minimized. Does that answer your question? I think we as women, or some of us, get used to our lifestyle and stop appreciating our men. Oh, yes. Both men and women, all of us. And that's one of the things that I was saying about scratching the 7-year itch. All of us. And it's not a function of how skilled or how emotionally intelligent we are or how good our marriage is. It's just needing to continue to add novelty and arousal to our marriage, our relationship, and our life. Always making something new. And it's so easy to take each other for granted once you've been together for a while. And that's that cycle that I was talking about. It's about 7 years where you get together, you fall in love, and this means later on in life, after 7 years, you get together again, you fall in love with the new things, the changed things, and grow yourself to another level of maturity or intimacy. Sometimes a big trauma in life brings us together to a higher level. An illness, or we have friends who their house burned down, and they fell in love with each other all over again as they were in each other's arms through the grieving and the transformation process of recreating their life together. So, yes, we can stop appreciating our men. and our men can stop appreciating us. And you know what? Thanks for asking that question, because that's one of the things that is directly related to, you know, how they used to tell us you have to work on your marriage. Well, that's one of the things when you start realizing, oh my God, I'm not appreciating him, which leads me right into that last piece. Remember the last piece of deep friendship? And then the last question also is, how do you make yourself happy after being unhappy all your life? Oh man, well, you've got a task there. And it's something that we can do in this country. And it happens bit by bit. Knowing what makes you happy. And a lot of people don't know what makes them happy. So, my dear, if you email me and ask me, I'm going to type this in. Remind me. I have a passion list that's lengthy, pages long. And that helps us connect with the things that we like. Because if you've been unhappy all your life, then there are things that you're not getting that you need. And it may be that you've been depressed about something. It could also be that you were wounded, you know, like a little girl who was sexually abused when she was little. She's always going to be scared and defensive. I'm not saying that that happened to you, but it's when you have an unhappiness, there's a problem that needs to be solved or a wound that needs to be healed. In these times, that's what I would say. I wouldn't, you know, I would say, yeah, let's go, let's work on it. Let's take you in the direction of the things that are going to make you content, happy, confident, and pleased with something. Maybe not your whole life all at once, but at least start something that you can, that you have the ability, the wherewithal to move on. What's your advice for a person who is getting attention from another source and being ignored by the spouse? Ooh, ha! That, as you know, is a recipe for infidelity. And when the article that I wrote on infidelity, that's often the foundation, where the marriage isn't strong enough, you're losing your best friend, you're losing your romance, and there's always somebody somewhere in the wings that's going to see you from the outside and really appreciate, enjoy you from the outside. Now, if you're needy and you're not getting it from your, what needs to be your best friend, you're going to end up moving away from your spouse towards this person who wants to be your friend. Now, if they're getting too close to you and wanting a best friendship with you or friendship with you, then they're not being appropriate, because you don't try to get friends with an opposite sex person who is married. A married person is best friends with their spouse. And if you are no longer best friends with your spouse, you need to either be responsible for healing that and rejuvenating your relationship, or ending your relationship. Because if you become best friends with another man and you're married to this man, you're already removing your best friendship, and that's the beginning of infidelity. So that's a red light for me. It would be a really big red light. And I would say get away from somebody who wants you as a friend that's an opposite sex person, because that belongs with your mate, your beloved, your husband. How can you bring intimacy back if it's gone for several years? Well, there are lots of answers to that question. And that would take me a whole Red Room session. So you know what? Thanks for asking that question. Next week, I'm going to talk about libido recovery, or how to get your sex life back or your love life back when it's been gone for a while. Because yeah, we know how to do that. However, it has nothing to do with the sex act usually. And usually it has everything to do with feeling like you're best friends and you're a team and that you really love each other. Thank you. I'll run the other direction. Hoo-ha! You go, girl. Next week. Yes, next week. Thank you so much, dears, for tuning in and for asking me such great questions. I love this. So to recap from today, interactional elements of deep friendship: understanding with tolerance and respect, shared worlds, the ability to negotiate differences, the ability to be private and separate, reconceptualizing affection, collegiality, and togetherness. So if I were to say my best recipe for togetherness and really giving yourselves the opportunity to fall in love with each other in a little way regularly, date other great couples. Couples that are successful, that are healthy, that have a good sense of humor, and that really are devoted to their marriage and their friendship. When you're with other couples like that, it inspires you in your own way, in your own marriage, and it inspires them. It's one of the best things that you can do for your marriage or your intimate relationship. Oh, you're really awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, dears. I love doing this, and it makes it so much more fun when you ask me questions and when you appreciate me like that. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next Wednesday, same place, in the Red Room. And you know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about recovering the love life in your relationship. You're so welcome, dears. Thank you so much. And good night from the Red Room. I'll see you soon. Next week, same time, same place, actually. Bye-bye.